Hello, it's late autumn here at Goulds and it's a little nippy. The temperatures have dropped recently, but actually this is quite a good thing for sowing our hardy annuals. Now most people will sow their annual seeds in spring, which is fine. That it makes sense because they've got a short shelf life. Ultimately they grow very quickly, so getting them in the warmth of the spring is a good idea. However, there are some annuals that are hardy annuals. Some examples of this would be Love in a Mist, Calendula, and my absolute favourite, sweet peas. You might not know sweet peas are hardy, but they actually are. And this is really good news because it means we can sow them early, get the roots really established, and we'll have quite strong plants to plant out in the spring. I know some people have mixed results with sweet peas. Some people find it a bit tricky. And I think that's mostly because they're a needy plant. But once you know what those needs are, which I will help you with today, then actually they are quite easy to grow and you can get some fabulous results. I've been growing sweet peas for years and I grow them probably for the same reasons most people do. They smell absolutely divine and they're a fantastic cut flower. They're what we call cut and come again. So the more you cut them, the more they grow. They are the gift that keeps on giving. And for me, sweet peas, they're your just quintessential English flower. Having them freshly cut in a vase on the kitchen table is really nostalgic, and it's that kind of vision that I aim for and why I'm standing out in the cold planting them because I focus in on that's what I want next year. So the reason we plant them this time of year is because the key to sweet peas, the key to success, is their root system. They are hungry hippos as far as plants go. They need lots of nutrients and lots of water, but that's when they're later on, not so much when they're growing as their seedlings. But because of all the nutrition they need, the way they're going to uptake all those nutrients is through their root system. And unlike other annuals, they actually do have quite a deep root system, and that is one of the top tips I'm going to give you, is when you're planting your sweet pea seeds, you want it in a very deep pot. You want to encourage them to grow very deep roots. The deeper those roots go, the better, stronger flower you're going to have for next year, and the more prolific it will flower next year as well. So I always use this product here. It's Westlands Grow Sure, and it's a deep cell root trainer. Let me show you what I mean by that. So it comes sort of, doesn't look like anything right now, but you clip it together to create a cassette, and each cassette lines up in this tray here, and you've got these cells which you can see are at least 2 or 3 times deeper than a normal tray, a normal sort of seed tray. And this is what's going to encourage your sweet pea roots to go as deep as possible. Now another genius thing about this is that there's these sort of ridges that run down, and what this does is as your roots start to grow out, they'll touch the sides and then they'll follow these channels down, and that's why it's a root trainer. We're training the roots to go as deep as possible. So as you can see, it's a lot deeper than your normal seed tray, and that is why it is perfect for sweet peas. So it's also see-through, which means you can see what the roots are doing, and that's really important as well, because when these roots have taken up that space, you want to pot it on. Don't leave it in there and forget about it, because once they have filled that space, they are going to need some nutrition and different soil. Then once you've put all your seeds in there and you've popped it in there, then you've got the lid to put on top of it, and that's its own self-contained unit. It's so easy and perfect. You wouldn't necessarily keep this on all the time because you do need it to air, and certainly once they get growing at the top, this will get in the way anyway. But don't forget, they're hardy annuals, so they're meant to survive the cold, and in fact we actually do want to keep them at 5 degrees or less. They can go down to -4, which is pretty cold, especially down here in the southwest of England. It's very rare that we have prolonged periods of that. But it's that cold snap that what it's doing is you won't get much growth going on at the top here. So don't worry, you'll get your seed in now. You won't see a lot happening. You'll see germination, so you'll know that it's working. But the rest is what's going on underneath the soil, and it's working on its roots all through the winter. Now when you come to spring, you'll have such a good healthy root system that then you'll remove it from this, and this is another good, fantastic, genius idea with this, is you just pop it open and then you gently take out your root system and your plant, which means there's damage limitation. You'll be nice and gentle with it and you can pot it on. So that's another really good thing about this. So the other key with sweet peas, and actually all seeds, is to use the right soil. I would highly recommend, I'm using John Innes seed sowing compost. You want a seed compost. You don't want a multi-purpose at this stage, and the reason for that is because a seed compost has really good drainage. It's a different texture entirely to a multi-purpose compost. It's very fine, and this means that the roots can find their way through nice and easy, and the easier it is for those roots to establish, the quicker the plant grows. With the multi-purpose, it's much coarser and they've got to really fight their way through, and that takes time and it slows down the development of the plant. Drainage as well, with the finer kind of soil that seed compost is, the drainage is really good, which means your roots aren't sitting in any sort of damp soil, which when they're more established you kind of want them to do because you want them to uptake the water, but when they're delicate little seedlings you don't want the roots to rot, so it's really important they have good drainage. So that's again a bonus of going with the seed compost. And the third thing really is that it has low nutrients, which is interesting because you would think you'd want to pack as many nutrients to that seedling as possible to give it the best start, but you don't. A seed has its own mini pantry within its shell. It will feed itself quite happily until it's germinated and beyond. Once it gets into a seedling and is an established small plant, that's when it starts to need the nutrition, but not before. And in fact, if you use a multi-purpose compost for your seed during germination, once it starts to produce its roots, the fertilizer that is added to the multi-purpose compost can actually scorch those roots. So I would stay away from it. You'll need it later on for potting on, but you don't need it now for sowing seeds, and that's any seeds, not just sweet peas. So you would fill each cell with your compost up to nearly the top, but not fully the top, because you need a little bit of space for when you are watering it, for it to not splash the soil over everywhere. And then around 1/2 inch deep, you'll put your seed in, cover it over and water it. So as I said, I'm going to be sowing some sweet peas. I'm very excited about this because these are new on the market. These are new out for 2026 with Thompson and Morgan. We've got two varieties, Queen of the Isles, which is like a delicious raspberry ripple. I'm so looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. And Erewhon, which is this beautiful lavender blue. It's kind of dark at the base and then goes lighter at the top. So these are the ones that I'm going to try, and I'll try and sow them all. However many cells I've got, I'm going to go for it. Interestingly, there's a couple of ways to sow the seed. Some people soak the seed overnight and then sow it the next day, and that's because they're trying to soften the outer shell. The outer shell is very hard, it's very thick, and they think by softening it, it will help germination, it will help the little seed poke its way through that shell. Other people nip the side of the seed with some nail clippers just to break that little bit of shell, so there's kind of like this little hole in it already so that it can germinate through. You have to be very careful with that method because you might damage the seed inside, and we don't want to do that. And by nipping it and creating that little hole, it just makes it an easier life for the seedling to germinate. And some people, like myself, don't do anything whatsoever. They just put the seed in the soil and let nature take its course. The reason people use the other two methods is purely for germination. They think that it helps them get it germinated quickly, therefore the quicker it germinates, the quicker the roots can get established. But I'm not so sure. I don't use those methods anymore. I have tried them both, but I haven't had any more success rates. In fact, I would say that my yield was lower in terms of germination rate with the nip in the side of it, because the water could get into the seed a lot quicker and actually rot it before it even had chance to germinate. So I definitely wouldn't be using that method again. Soaking them overnight, I wouldn't say it's made a difference for me. So it's up to you what you would like to do. But I would say keep it simple. Just pop them straight into the soil and they should do what nature does, and they'll grow perfectly fine. Like I say, put them in 1/2 inch deep, cover them over, water. Now don't water again for the next 10 to 14 days. Wait till germination has happened. And what I mean by germination is the fact that little green shoots have started to come through. That's when you're going to water it again, and in fact you probably need to keep it fairly regularly watered. Keep an eye out. If the top of the soil crust goes dry, it needs watering. If it's not, then don't. You don't want to overwater them at this stage. And that's the beauty of this setup, because you can either water ahead over the top and it will collect at the bottom in the ridges, and you can just pour it away because you've got these little channels down the side, or you can just pour the water in down the side and water from underneath. I would take the lid off for every few hours a day just to let it air. You don't really want to create a microclimate for these. Normally when you're growing seeds in the spring and they're tender seeds, they want that microclimate. They need the heat and they need the light. Polar opposite with sweet pea seeds. They want the dark to germinate and they want the cold. They need the cold. So don't be too tempted to mollycoddle them. They don't need that. And that is really it. Once you've got your seed compost and you've got your grow kit, choose your seeds. I mean, we've got a fantastic selection to look at. Get them planted up now and see what happens. I will be checking in with you in the spring. I'll be showing you the progress of my seeds to see how we've got along, how many have germinated as well, and obviously we're trialing these new varieties, which will be very exciting. And we can then talk about what you do next. Where are you planting them and how are we going to grow them? But until then, good luck and happy seed sowing.